and give away the money to whoever he or she wants. There's all kinds of reasons why you know if you have a kid, you can't get that money. So what do? You're going to provide in your living trust, and I'll get into this a little bit, something called a protection trust. And that kid's share, that child's share will go to that child in a protection trust. But you need a trustee of that protection trust. You need a third party to manage it and use it and control it for the benefit of that problem child. So who are you going to name? You did it, if it was like the old days, before we saw what happens, you name your, we tell you name your quote unquote normal child, one of your normal children. Normal meaning no such incapacities or anything like that. And that would be the natural response, wouldn't it? Because blood watches out for other blood, and who else is going to take the job? Okay, but then we saw what happens in that situation, because the problem child can make it a miserable life for his or her trustee sibling. It's, you have my money and I want it. It's, I want, it's if you don't give me my money, even if it goes against the standards of invasion of principle, I'm going to call you at your work 20 times a day. I'm going to put my body in front of you. This stuff actually happens. Put your body in front of your car. You won't be able to go to work. I'm going to visit your kids at school. I'm going to do all these things that's going to create a miserable life for you. And I want my money. And because he's sick of saying, oh, gee, I'm looking for a car. I'm looking at this Cadillac. And then the trustee sibling is saying, well, how about a nice Hyundai or whatever. It's just an impossible relationship between the problem child and the trustee child. So what happens, and this will happen, is that your trustee child, well, not will, but there's a significant likelihood will say, forget it. I don't need this. I'm just going to hand the money over to my sibling, and that's the end of it. Two things. One, that's illegal because the trust provisions are not being followed, and probate code says that the trustee must follow and carry out the inheritance instructions. But number two, that child didn't get his inheritance outright because of a problem. And if the money is going to fuel that child's destruction, then that is, in my mind, a complete screwing up of that child. Whether, whatever the reason for the protection, now that child has no protection. So we recognize the problem. What's the solution? Do not name, as a third-party trustee, your other children, unless there's just no choice. Who should you name? You should name somebody who's in the business of being a trustee for others. A corporate fiduciary, a private fiduciary, a trust company. I know a lot of people get a little skittish when they hear, oh, what do you mean, some third party's in control of the family money or a portion of the family money? Yeah, but it's better than your intentions not being followed and resulting in a complete devastation to the child who was supposed to be protected. Okay. That's how you accidentally. So those are like the big greatest hits on how you can use your inheritance plan to accidentally mess up your family. There's only one way that I want to talk about where you intentionally are going out of your way to mess up your family, is when you intentionally do not leave an equal inheritance to your kids. Why would you intentionally not leave an equal inheritance? Well, if one kid's estranged, you haven't seen that kid, then maybe you're going to cut out that kid. That's human. That's life in the big city. But if you're going to cut out your kid, there's a way to do it. You have to prepare now the defense that will be brought after you die, and your cutout child is bringing an action against the trust for his or her share. And the whole section of the book about that. And by the way, when you dump a kid out of your inheritance plan, you also dump that kid into the lives of your other kids. So you want to be careful about that. Maybe you don't want to fully dump that kid out. But, oh yeah, the main reason why I found that or when I say you, of course, I'm using it euphemistically, that people cut out that leave their kids in unequal shares, is because they feel that one kid doesn't need it as much as their other kid. I get this all the time. Gee, my daughter is a lovely gal, but she's a struggling school teacher. She's never making enough money, but my businessman's son, doctor's son, investor's son, he's doing just fine. So I want to leave most of it to my daughter, and just, you know, a token amount to my son. Isn't that a great plan? Yes, that's a great plan to you because you're doing economic justice, and it's lovely. But you have to see the impact after you die, and you won't see it because you'll be dead, but I'll be around, and what I'll see is the successful child will transfer his anger and his resentment onto his sister. Anger, resentment on you, because you, to the successful child, have punished his success and rewarded his dingbat sister's failure. That's in the mind of the successful child. And I have lived this. This is real life. When I was married, I did a living trust for my in-laws, and they had 8 kids. I married the youngest. Their older kid is an extremely successful CPA at Deloitte & Touche in Arizona. They said, Craig doesn't need it. Don't leave Craig anything. And I wrote the book on this. I said, I think you, well, no. I said, well, will you let me at least talk to Craig and just let him know what you're doing, because, you know, people should know what to expect in the inheritance arena when they inherit. That's a whole different subject. Is yes, you should tell your kids about your inheritance plan. Yes, you should. Okay. All right. So they let me talk to Craig, and that conversation lasted for 35 seconds. 23 seconds of it was pleasantries, and the other 7 seconds was, Craig, just want to let you know that I did a plan, and your parents cut you out because they feel you didn't need it. And he goes, oh yeah, I'll talk to him. Click. It doesn't matter how. It's not the money. It's the principle. It's you have rewarded failure. Being a teacher is not failure, but I'm just using it euphemistically. You're rewarding failure and punishing success, especially after your child thinks, geez, I've worked so hard to bring success to my parents and my family, and look what they've done. So, and sometimes and we say, go talk to your successful child, and the class says, no, we know. Because, well, my dad used to say, I'm not going to do this plan until you report back to me after you've talked to your successful child. My view is, hey, I'll do what you want. Just make an informed decision. But when those kids, when the parents came back, you know, in my dad's day, they would say, how did you know, Jerry? And he says, well, this is not my first rodeo on this one. So, do not, in the main, do not base your inheritance to your kids based on need. Give it to them equally, if you cherish family preservation of the family relationship after you're gone. There was one time where I was there when he said it to my dad. My dad said, look, if you do this, you know, your successful daughter is just going to, you know, it's going to spit on your grave. And I didn't say spit. You know, excuse me, my dad didn't say spit. And this guy said, that's okay, I'll be buried at sea. So, you know, he didn't care. So people don't care, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Let's see, how are we doing? Doing good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a second or a question?
I'll take a question, sure.
If you have a difference of age and you had all these children in your life, and you have a child, a young child, 3 years old, father passed away, how did you give them equal to all the children? I don't agree with it.
Are you saying that if a child has died before you?
No. Let's say you have like 30 years old, 28, and so. So then
Yeah.
you have a child.
Yeah.
It was with the parent until the father died. The father died when he was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So, and now he's in process of growing.
Mm-hmm.
You give a lot of money to your children, or the oldest one. You help them all your life. And
Ah.
now this child is just getting
Right.
stronger.
Yeah.
How can you feel to distribute equal?
Well, then that's your philosophy, isn't it? You're helping a child at a time the child needs help. Not everybody feels the same way. If you're talking about based on age disparity, you know, you want to, in my view, you want to leave your assets to your kids in equal shares, regardless of how old they are. You know, even if there's like a 12-year age disparity between them. But like I said, not everybody agrees with our philosophy. If you have, you know, if you're pumping out more dough to one child because that child is now, you know, is younger and is growing up and needs money for this and that and this and that, and your other kids are taking care of themselves, okay, yeah. And so you do that, and then if your living trust at